Welcome back to The Vault, where we interview professionals across the fashion industry. Today we have fashion consultant, trend forecaster, and columnist August Catano on the show. We'd like to quickly thank Breather for existing. So Breather is our rooms that we record in. So they're pay-per-hour rooms for exactly what you need, a breather. Whether you're studying, or you need a moment, or a meeting with a client, you can find a beautiful, practical space that are available in San Francisco, New York City, Montreal, Boston, Ottawa, and Los Angeles. Use promo code VAULT, V-A-U-L-T, for a free hour when you sign up for Breather. Today we have fashion consultant and trend forecaster August Catano on from Argentina. I met August a few fashion weeks ago, and she made quite the impression with her sense of humor, attention to detail, and she walks around Fashion Week with a yellow Pikachu iPhone case where she shoots photos that are inspiration for the clients that she works with. She has an incredible story, and I think that you're going to really enjoy it. So let's get started. Welcome to the show, August Catano. August, how are you today?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thanks for joining me from Argentina. I've now seen you running around Fashion Week for 4 weeks. So I saw you in, I think, New York last September, and then I met you and sort of followed you and a bunch of people around Paris and met you. And I noticed, I'm like, who is this? Who is this girl walking around with an iPhone when everybody has DSLRs and you're taking photos? It wasn't until this year at New York, to my producer Lene, got to talking with you, where I really, didn't understand exactly what you did. You are a trend forecaster in fashion, and we'll get into your sort of background and bio here in a moment, which is pretty impressive. But what exactly do you do as a trend consultant?
Okay, so yes, I'm the crazy girl running around with a yellow case in Fashion Week. Exactly your impression. No one understands what I'm doing with a phone when everybody has those huge cameras. So the thing is that when I go to Fashion Week, what I'm doing, I do all four main capitals. I do New York, London, Milan, and Paris. Soon I will start to add some more fashion weeks, like I'm looking into going to Tokyo this year as well. So what I do, I'm a trend forecaster. I've been doing that for a while. I am going to Fashion Week and I'm different from the photographers in the sense that I'm looking at trends. I'm looking at the detail in the shoes. I'm looking at the style, out how people are wearing, like if people are wearing, for example, sandals with socks. So I'm going to go and take a picture of just that, the sandals and the socks. Or if people are wearing, like, what kind of pants are they wearing? They're wearing white pants, they're wearing culottes, they're wearing shorts. What kind of sweater are they wearing? Is it about long sweaters, short sweaters? Like, what type of silhouettes? What type of colors? What type of fabrics? So that's my angle. I'm not looking, of course, I want to have a great picture, like a nice composition of the picture, but that's not my goal. My goal is to look at the trends. And every single day, once I finish, when I go home or when I'm having a coffee or a soup, running around, I take notes of what I'm watching. Because what I do is I track trends. So season after season, and even when I don't go to Fashion Week, for example, I don't do pre-fall or I don't do couture, but I still watch those shows online. So I'm tracking trends. I'm determining, okay, this length of pants is this length. Okay, pants are going wider, or pants are going longer, or or the bags are smaller, or people are wearing two bags at the same time, or we see an emphasis on sleeves. For example, this season, everybody was with you might have noticed that everybody was wearing like huge sleeves, like long sleeves that you couldn't even see the hands, or an emphasis on the shoulders. Everybody was showing the shoulders. So that's what I'm looking. That's my main emphasis, trends and colors and silhouettes. That's what I'm doing.
And so you take these photos while you're at Fashion Week and throughout the year, and then you're starting to make sense of them so that you can present them to what types of companies are you consulting with, presenting this data to, And then, I guess the second part of that question is, what kind of data do you present to them, and like how is it presented? Like how are you making sense of this that they in turn can, like how do they make sense of what you're trying to make sense of as far as this data? Like what are they looking for?
Okay, that's a great question. So this is the process. What I'm doing is when I go to Fashion Week, as I said, I'm taking pictures. Then every day when I get back home, I create files. Like, for example, one folder can say like socks and sandals. Another folder could be off the shoulder top. Another folder could be like very long sleeves. So I start like every single day. This is something that you need to do it on a daily basis because I take around 50,000 pictures in all Fashion Week. So I can't wait until the end of Fashion Month to do and to group my things. So I do it every day, and every day I drag the pictures to these folders. Then I go the second day, I'm in New York Fashion Week, I take more pictures, go back to the hotel or back home, and I create more files, and I continue to create these trends. Then with all this information, I have a lot of folders with information, as I said, like long skirts, red, pastel, winter pastel, or whatever the folders are. I create trend reports. So I call them trend alerts, that these trend alerts are like short versions of a trend report. Mm-hmm. So I have two different clients. Some clients use it on the front end, as I call it, and some clients use my information on the back end. What does it mean? On the front end, our customers, my clients, are at department stores that use it to put this content on social media. So to tell their clients, we have Agus in Fashion Week, in London Fashion Week, and she's determining trends for us. So they put in their Instagram like long sleeve shirts. And so this is content for their social media, or they create videos with the trends, but always the focus is on trends. I'm always saying what I'm determining there. Like here you have to look at the shoes. So every single day I send these pictures through Dropbox to the community managers of these department stores. So that's on the front end. But then I have other clients that use my information on the back end. So those clients, they don't use the information right away. Once I get home and I watch all the shows, because when I'm in Fashion Week, I'm not getting into many shows. I'm mostly on the streets, as we were sharing together Fashion Week. So I'm on the streets. I'm not getting inside Valentino show. I'm just looking at what people are wearing outside Valentino show. So once I get back home in Buenos Aires, or wherever it is my home now, because I don't know, I travel a lot, but now it's Buenos Aires. I get back home, I watch all the runway shows, and I look at my information of street style, and I create trend reports. These reports are not the trend alerts that are one page that I told you about that is social media content. These are like 700 pages, like keynote presentations, where I tell my clients that are also department stores and e-tailers, I tell them the direction of the season. So that information is used by the visual merchandisers, by the merchandisers, and by the buyers of the department stores in order to buy a good season. They have X amount of money, and I tell them, okay, you should allocate 50% of your budget to skirts. And of that 50%, 15% should be to long skirts, and 12% should be to like lace skirt. So I work with them. I will tell you a little bit about me, but I'm an accountant as well as a fashion designer. So I like this side of me of consulting in the trend side, but also talking with the buyers, where I talk also about business. Like I have it inside me. I need to talk about, it's great to talk about trends, but I have it inside. I'm a CPA. I need to also put the numbers there. I need you to make sense as a buyer and just be confident that where you're going to allocate your budget is right.
And that's a lot of pressure, both on you and the buyer, right? Because as a consultant, if you're off in a big way, or one of your reports is off, that means that their bottom line is going to be going to hurt as well.
Yes.
Do you feel that pressure when you're doing this, or is it now a pressure that you've sort of grown comfortable in?
Well, that's a great thing. It is pressure. Of course, there is a lot of pressure. I'm talking a lot of like a huge budget. I'm working with very like huge department stores that are not only in Argentina, but they have presence worldwide. Well, more South America, like Latin America presence. I do feel the pressure, but I have to say that I like working with pressure. Like, I'm a workaholic. I'm extremely hard worker, and I like working with the pressure. I like having that responsibility. I like being the one that tells, okay, you need to put this money here. And I think the way I show it, and because I trust myself, I trust my reports, because I study a lot, I research a lot, I work a lot. So it's not that I feel like I'm smarter. No, I dedicate a lot of my time, and I create very interesting trend reports. So, and it's also work with the buyer. It's not that I'm saying, okay, you need to put like 5.8 million in pants and then I walk away. No, it's like, okay, how did you do last season? What did you sell? What did you like? I work with the buying team and the merchandiser team. So as a consultant, I give my voice, I talk to them, and I also listen. It's a conversation, but it is a lot of pressure, but I love it. I wouldn't change it at all. I used to do this in a department store, like working, as an employee, and now I do it on my own, and I like it.
Do you see financial reports when you consult with some of these big department stores that you can sort of, because we'll get into your career, early in your career you were an accountant, but do you get into seeing some of the numbers so that they can compute in your head so that you can make an accurate assessment on like what exactly to allocate?
Yes. I don't see the final P&L, but I do see, like, for example, if I'm working with the buyer of X brand, she shares with me the markup that she's using for like X category. Like, okay, for skirts, I can do a markup of X percentage. And last season, I didn't sell enough. I didn't have enough, for example, pants. I should have, I lost sales for not having enough pants. Okay, so we talk, and she also does her research on the sales floor, and she speaks with the salesperson. Why didn't we have, what were we missing last season? So yes, I get to see some financials. Yeah, definitely. I used to see more financials when I was working as an employee of this, as a trend coordinator of a department store, because I was in the company. Sometimes it's hard for clients to share financials when you're a consultant, right? But it's part of the job. It's part of the job, and you sign a confidential agreement, and you just look at the financials. Like last year, I was also doing a consultancy on the business side, like purely on the business side. Mercado Libre, that is like, it's eBay. eBay is part of Mercado Libre. It's like an e-tailer.
Yep.
It's based in Argentina, Brazil, all over, and they hired me to do a consultancy to position the fashion business online. They realize, like Amazon, eBay, they're all putting a lot of emphasis on the fashion vertical, as they call it, online, and they want me to help with what should they do to position the fashion business online. So they open the books, and they have to share financials with me. They have to tell me, okay, this is what we're doing, and this is the return that we're getting on our investment. What do you think? So yes, but you sign a confidential agreement that means you're not going to say anything. And if you do, you're in trouble. So you don't want.
So like you were saying, and I caught quickly, and you like casually said that these reports are 700 pages long.
Yes.
How long does that take you to put together a 700-page trend report for it's like twice a year too, right? Or is it just once a year?
Yes, it's twice a year. And it takes me like a month and a half working like full time on this.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a lot. Yes, it's a lot, because I also create some videos, like introduction for each trend. For example, the way it goes, a trend report is I present the trends. So usually you have 3 to 4 trends each season. So I group I present the trends. So for example, okay, next season we're talking about like the 70s, sport deluxe, romanticism, and whatever. So I create, and for each trend, I create a mood board. That a mood board is like a visual presentation. So you can put all your audience into, okay, what is sport deluxe? Because if I say sport deluxe, you can have an idea of what sport deluxe is. I can have a different idea. So the best thing, and I always said that to my team when I was working in Falabella, and now to my assistant, is we need to talk in a visual way. So we all understand the same when I say 70s, when I say sport deluxe, when I say romanticism. So you put a collage that is a visual presentation that sets the mood of what the 70s are, and then for each trend I present the mood board. I present a color palette where you have like the main colors and you have accents. Like the accents are colors that are not the main colors. not the core colors, but you're going to use it a little bit. For example, you have like, I'm getting very technical here, but for example, you have like all your colors for romanticism are pastels, but you also have like a cobalt, or you have like a very powerful red that is not part of the main color palette, but is attached like a tone that you're going to use just to give some accents. So for each trend, as I said, I present the name of the trend, the mood board, the color palette, and then I go into explaining all the silhouettes for that trend, the fabrics, the prints and patterns for that trend, the shoes that go with that trend, the bags, the accessories. So it's a lot. And then I present some videos with some representation. For example, okay, for this trend, we saw like the main designer was Kenzo, and I showed the video. So all these trends are presented like you can buy them, but I like to present them. Like you can take the keynote, but I go to the companies and I present it. I'm a speaker. I give seminars in many universities and institutions around the world, and I love to present them themselves. I love doing that. So it's not the same, I think, if you buy a book, but if you actually have the book, but you have the person that did it explaining it and going through with you.
So, and we're gonna jump to like your education and everything and your background here in a second. But how do you solicit work? How do you get contracts? What's that process like? Because you went from okay. So I don't want to jump back right yet because like your career path has been is pretty interesting. But you like need a new contract, or there's another gig that you need, right, to add to, like maybe one client dropped off. How do you go about finding work as a consultant?
Okay. Yeah, that's great. With some clients, I already have some stability. Like I know every season. I mean, being a consultant and working as a freelance, of course, has the downside that you're never sure, like if they're going to renew the contract or not. But with some clients, I've been already working for a while, so I know each season they hire me. But if they don't, or if I want to add some clients, I usually do research and I'm very straightforward. And if I want to work for a company, I don't care how big you are. I don't care where you are. I'm going to send you an email. I'm going to ask for a call to have a Skype with you. I'm going to send you my bio, my introduction. I'm very confident about my career. I'm very confident about what I do. But as I said, again, not because I'm smarter than anybody, because I do it with a lot of passion and I love what I do. So I give everything in what I do. So if I want to work with someone, let's say I want to work for Barney's or I want to work for Bergdorf Goodman or whoever, I will send them an email. I will look in LinkedIn, who is the person I should contact. And I will also always have my business cards during Fashion Week. I think, of course, people are running around and I'm running around myself. But if I want to talk with someone at a department store, that's a great place. You have everybody there. So it's a great place to say, hey, this is me. Let me give you my card. I'm going to contact you in a month when you're quite, back home. But I have, if I want to work for someone, I will write to them. That's the way I got all of my clients. I mean, now some clients contact me because they already see me in my networks and they see me in some magazines. But when I started, it was about contacting myself.
Yeah, that's what the one thing I've noticed about you. I don't know if I've met more of an assertive person than you, and I say that with admiration, because you seem like you go after exactly what you want at every moment, even when it's introducing yourself to people at Fashion Week, or wanting to needing a photo, or going up to someone. You're not shy at all, and
yes.
Even to some of the biggest faces.
Sorry. I think it's such I always say to my students, it's a very competitive industry, very, very, in whatever you work, as an academic or as a photographer or fashion forecaster. So you need to stand out for yourself and you can't be shy. There is no way you can be shy because you need to find your way. You need to find your place. So, I mean, if you are shy, you should work on it, or you should find your way to get to people. If you're good at something, I always say to my students, people are not going to knock your door, knock on your door and say, hi, we're looking for you. You need to be out there and showing your work and introducing yourself, and you can't be shy. It happened to me, sometimes some clients don't get back to me. Working in Argentina is very hard, I have to say. I did my undergrad, my second undergrad and my master's in New York. So most of my 20s, I live in New York. So I became very American. And I love the American way of doing business. So being in Argentina is very hard. So in the sense, like, people don't get back to you. You can send an email and people get back to you after 12 days. Wow. And I'm so American in my way of being that I'm like, oh my God. And I send emails like, did you get my email? Because so you can't be shy. Like, if you're shy, I will wait forever and maybe I don't get any contracts. But because I'm pursuing and I'm sending emails like, hey, I'm going to Fashion Week like in 2 months. I need to close this deal. And hey, did you get my email? So you need also, that's a great learning that I got from living in New York and a few months in Paris and now in Argentina. You have to understand where you're doing business. Each country has its own way of doing business and you need to adapt to that or you die. Like, definitely, as I said, I'm very comfortable dealing with Americans because most of my 20s and my career was in the US, but here I have to understand that it's different and I have to adapt to that in order to get business. Like, once you get in Buenos Aires, for example, you get to a business, to a meeting, and the first like 15 minutes are about having a coffee and talking about the weather and how you are. Like, it's not, and none of the of the meeting starts in time. People tell you at 2, but they show up like 10 past 2, a quarter past 2, and it's okay. And with the emails, they get back to you after 10 days. And so it's a different way. And I teach in Dominican Republic, for example. I've been teaching there for a while in a school that is affiliated with Parsons, New York. And it's even worse. I mean, not worse, but it's even like more emphasizes the fact that, people arrive like half an hour late and it's so chill. Like, I'm always telling to my students, the final presentation is at noon. Okay, they start showing up at noon. At noon, they should be, in New York, my students are already with a projector and are waiting, like they're ready. No, in DR, they arrive to the class at noon, they connect the projector, blah, and we start like 12:30. So, I mean,
tardy.
It's
tardy.
You have to get used to that.
So let's track back. You had an interesting story and career path. You went to college in Argentina, and you received your degree in accounting coming out of the gate, and you worked in accounting. And then right as you graduated college, when you were 22, you had a serious car accident that really changed the path of kind of your career and what you wanted to do. It was sort of a defining moment. Can you talk to me about what happened during that time?
Yes, exactly. Yes. So as you said perfectly, I am an accountant. I study 5 business, and I graduate. I work as an accountant for a very short time at Deloitte & Touche as an auditor. And then I had a short experience in a petroleum company. Repsol YPF is a Spanish and Argentinian company in the marketing side. And when I was working there, I had a car accident. I was coming from the farm in the highway and I had a terrible car accident. It left me bedridden for like 2.5 months. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning, they said I was not going to walk again. I mean, some doctors said yes, some doctors said no, but the fact was that I was in intensive care. They moved me to a regular room. And so there were like different opinions. Some people said you are going to walk. Some people, you're not. And then one doctor came in and he was like the masters in spine. I broke my spine. I broke 3rd and 4th lumbar vertebra. And I broke 3 ribs and my liver, my stomach. And I have a cut all across the head from ear to ear. I have a huge cut. So one of the doctors came in, he was the masters in spine, and he said, like, you know what, you're too young, you're 22. If this would have happened when you were like 60, okay, you're not walking again. But you are 22. What you should do is stay in bed, and you can't even sit, nothing. Stay in bed, and in 2 months, you're going to walk again. 2 or 3 months, you're going to walk again.
Wow.
But of course, as he was saying that, and some other doctors were saying, like, we need to do a surgery, like, she's not going to walk again. Of course, the 2.5 months I was in bed, I had no idea if I was really going to walk again. So every day I was laying in bed. I couldn't even sit at all. I have a nurse that lived with me, and then I have different nurses coming during the day. It was like, they made like a hospital in my room in my mom's house. So And so I have different nurses that came and changed my diapers. I was with diapers. They have to feed me. They have to wash me.
Wow.
And strangely enough, I have 2 colds that I still have the scars from when I broke the vertebrae. And they put sugar in the holes. That was a weird thing because the sugar helps the skin recover. So they were putting me sugar. Okay. But long story short, the only part of the body that I could move were my arms. That's the only part. I have some doctors that came to move my legs, but on my own, I could only move my arms. So I start sewing. Like I'm very, as you said, I'm very, I am ambitious. I'm very proactive. I couldn't stay in bed without just looking or watching TV. So on one hand, my dad passed away now, but at the time he was an architect and he designed like, a desk so I could paint while laying in bed. So I didn't need to sit. So he had a special desk for me. So I started painting and I took makeup classes also, like everything like in bed. And then I started doing bags. I asked my mom and some friends to buy me fabrics and I did bags and handbags and like hair bands and a lot of accessories. And I did so much that a friend of mine, Denise, who is one of my best friends, offered me to sell those stuff. She was like, we need to do something with this. You know, like if I'm a business person, she is also one. So she said like, let's go and sell it. So of course I was in bed. So she went to one of the department stores that funny enough now is one of my biggest customers in these trend reports. Wow. She went there and she sold through. They bought everything from her, all my collection that I did in bed.
So you were sitting, so you were just doing this to pass the time. And
exactly. I was waking up like, every day was so long. Imagine how long your day is and you're like out on the street and having a coffee and going for a beer with your friend. I was all day in bed, all day, and I couldn't even sit. I was laying in bed and I was 22. So with the energy of a 22-year-old person and with my energy, I'm extremely proactive. I'm always running around. So all of a sudden I was like stuck in bed. And in my head, I'm very rational also. So I was thinking like, am I going to walk again? Like they are saying I may walk again, or they're saying you should trust, but what if I don't? Like every single day that the doctor came to my house, I remember asking him, what happens if I stand up now? He was like, you're going to ruin everything. You're not ready to stand up. And I was like, well, what happens if I do? Because that was going on in my mind. Like, what happens if I try to walk now? And funny enough, when I stood up, I was wearing like a plastic corset, like a plastic like shell all around my body. For 2 more months, I had to wear that. And the first week I was with a walker. I need to learn how to walk again. And I was walking so slow that my grandfather, who was very old at that time, was walking faster than me. Like I remember racing him. Okay, let's go to the corner. And it took me like 30 minutes to go to the corner of the block. Like it was extreme, like everything was new for me. I needed to walk again, to see, like everything was new. So yes, I was doing that to pass the time. I never thought I was going to start a business. So this is what happened. I was doing a lot of stuff. So when my friends sold through in this department store, I decided I wanted to do better things. So I asked my mom to call the lady from the department store, from the dry cleaners downstairs my house. So she was working with me. So the dry cleaner downstairs my house, of course, they do alterations. So they have sewing machines. So the woman used to send me her daughter, and I used to explain the daughter what to do. Like, okay, you need to sew this piece with this piece, because I was working with more like with harder materials, like leather or like, so they were hard to do by hand. So they were sewing it with machine. They were bringing it home, and I was putting more things at home. So I create like a supply chain wow. where I was collaborating with the dry cleaner downstairs. And so I did like better things. And then the department stores bought even more things. So when I stood up after 2 months and a half, I went with the walker and my corset to this department store. I sold it. I saw everything on the window and I was like, this is it. I'm doing this. So I never went back into accounting or marketing, and I got some money from the insurance company from Zurich from the accident. I invested everything in my company, and I opened Agustina Cattaneo. That's my full name. I don't like my full name. I like to be called Agus. But at that time, I put my company, starting my company was Agustina Cattaneo And well, I had a showroom in Palermo that is like the trendiest area in Buenos Aires, and I was selling in Chile, in Brazil, in Greece, in the United States, in New York. So it was great. I did that for 2 years. And
yeah. So like how many pieces would like so when you were in bed and you were sort of out of commission, like how many pieces did you sell into that department store and then afterwards, like first, right, for someone who's, let's say, starting out, right, that wants to develop a line, how many pieces were you selling?
I mean, when I was in bed, there were not enough. I think, if I have to say, I sold maybe 50 pieces, like that's it. I don't think there were more, like even 40 or 50 pieces, like all accessories and handbags. And I even think 40 is a lot. 40, 35 pieces. That's all that I sold from what I was doing from bed. But then when I opened my company, when I started my company, of course I had no idea about sewing. I had no idea about price points, about markups. I was an accountant, and the last job I was doing was in marketing. So I had no idea about fashion. So my first season, I did a lot. Like I overstocked myself because I was like, okay, I want women to get dressed all from head to toe by Agus Cataño. So I did bags and I did clothing and I did shoes. So I did a lot. And the second season, I realized, okay, you need to plan a little bit. Like you can't do everything. So the second season, I specialized myself in tailored pieces. I love tailoring. I love suits and pants. I'm usually dressed in black. So I did it more minimalistic. And if I have to say, I don't really remember, but I think I did, for example, maybe 20 styles and 50 per style, 20 styles, 20 shirts, like in total, right? With shirts, with sweaters, with skirts and pants, and maybe, 20 styles and 50 per each, or maybe more, 80 per style, because you have to divide it in different colors. I don't really remember exactly, but it was growing. At the beginning, it was not that small because I was selling only in Buenos Aires. Then I started selling, most of my work was every week in Paraty, that is like the main magazine in Argentina. So when I start showing and being featured in Paraty, I start selling all across Argentina. And then I went into Chile, and then I was part of different trunk shows here in Argentina. So I started selling in Brazil. So when I opened up to the market, I did more, but I didn't start it with a lot.
So this was, so we can push this forward a little bit. So you started designing before you ever went to school, because
exactly.
Fast forward, you went to Parsons in New York City.
But that was after. Exactly, that was after. Once I had my company for 2 years in Argentina, as I said, I'm very hard on myself. I'm very ambitious. So I was like, I can't be a designer if I've never, I could be a designer if I never study, but I felt like I want to study. I also love studying. So I was like, you know what? I'm too young. I'm 24. I already had my company. I'm going to close it for a little bit, go to New York to study, and then come back. And I was going to go to New York just for a short course in Parsons. So it was like, I closed my company. Everybody was like, you're crazy. Why are you closing your company if you're going just to take a short course? And I was like, because I think New York is a city where I'm going to stay. I don't want to have to come back to Argentina because I have a company. So I decided to close it. I published in Paraty, in this magazine, an article that is called Change of Life. And it's a very nice interview that they did to me. And the end of the interview, I'm saying, I'm going to New York, but I will come back to Argentina to open up my brand in few years. And so, well, I didn't open my brand, but I came back. I moved to New York just to take a short course in Parsons. But then a week, I moved to New York with $100. And that's another very interesting chapter of my life. With $100, I didn't know a lot of people. At the time, I used to speak better French than English. I've never been in the US when I moved. I didn't even have a place to stay. And my friend met Israeli guy in Brazil, and she calls me up from Brazil, and she said, I found you a place to stay in New York. This Israeli guy is going to take care of you. So I ended up staying with the Israeli guy that then became one of my best friends. And 5 days after I arrived in New York, I found a job I had a working visa, like a temporary working visa that I applied for, so I could work. So I applied for a job at Cecil Van, that is like a extremely high-end clothing store in Soho, in New York. That they did the suits for Lenny Kravitz and David Bowie at that time. So they hired me. They hired me with my brutal English. I couldn't speak at all. And if you ask James, that I love him, the owner, the company is still running in Soho and he's very famous. If you ask him, he said, he always, like, I asked him like a few years ago in a party of Cecil Van, like, why did you hire me? And he said, because I saw something. Like, I knew who you were. Because he hired me without even me speaking. My English sucked. There was a manager at that time, not a manager, a sales associate at that time, that always like made my life impossible, Richard. He always made me pick up the phone. And I was like, this is bad. I can't speak. I don't know what a cufflink is, because it was very specific vocabulary. Like, and there were these customers, okay, I'm in LA. I need these cufflinks to get shipped overnight. I'm like, what is overnight? What is shipped and what is cufflink? Like, I couldn't,
It's tough. I don't speak any other languages. I can imagine. I can't imagine.
And it's even worse on the phone. So, but I forced myself. So when they hire me, and then after a few months that my visa expires, my temporary visa expires they paid for my visa for my O1, that is an artist visa, and they paid for my visa, and I stay and I became the manager of the store, and so I enroll in Parsons and I complete the whole certificate.
So how long? So that was like 6 months after arriving to the U.S.
Yeah, so I complete the certificate. It was a year and a half certificate in fashion design in Parsons.
No, I meant like when you like applied to Parsons and like started attending school.
Yeah, I started attending school as soon as I arrived with a short course that I already had paid. So my mom said when I left, she was like, I can either pay for your short course or give you the money. And it was like, pay for the short course. I don't care. And at that time, I can tell you, I have friends that can also speak for me. I arrived with $100. So I had no phone.
Wait a second. You got off the plane in New York City with $100?
Yes. And you can call my friend Ophir, the Israeli friend in New York, and he can tell you. And he lives in Soho. So when I arrive, he always tells me that he remembers that we were going down the street, like Mulberry Street with him, and I was looking at the shops and I was saying, I have $100 today, but in a few months I'm going to be shopping here in Soho. And he always remembers that I stayed always confident. But I had no money. I remember my friends from Cecil Van, sometimes they tell me, hey, can you go and buy me a bagel, for example? Like, I'm going to the store, and they were like, okay, get me a bagel. And I didn't even have extra money if they didn't give me the $1.50 for the bagel.
Wow.
I was eating bananas. Like, it was tough. After Ophir's house, I moved to Jersey City and to a room like further in Jersey City. And my mattress, I found it in the subway, in the path. I got my mattress from the path.
No way.
Yes.
No way.
Yes.
For people listening right now, if you're up against it and you're in school or you're broke, like, listen to this right now. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Exactly. And when there is a dream, nothing can stop you. I didn't care. I knew I was picking up the mattress from the PATH train in Jersey City, but that was not going to be forever. I knew that. And I knew I was eating bananas and I didn't have an extra $1.50 to buy an extra bagel, but that was not going to be forever. And I think when you're confident in yourself and when you have a dream, you show it. Like, this company pays for my visa, and then another time I reapply and I got it. Like, and to get the visa that I got in the US, being so young, is hard. It's called extraordinary ability visa. It's very weird, but nothing stopped me. I knew I didn't have any money, but I knew I had talent. So I applied for the visa and I applied for the extraordinary ability visa, and then I applied for my master's. So after Parsons, I did a master's at FIT in global fashion management. So nothing stopped me. And
so you have 3 degrees. So you went from car accident to designing in bed, creating accessories in bed, to going and getting off the plane in New York City with $100.
Yes,
it's $100 and no place to live really, and you got your master's. Like,
yes.
I don't know. I complain about like little stuff over the week, like how is this going to happen? And you're getting your master's in a foreign country, barely speaking the language. So after you graduated from your master's, what was your first major job after that, where you were actually getting a decent salary? Or what was that first job?
My first job after master was in Argentina, actually. That's when I decided to move back. I got a job offer from Falabella, that is a huge department store. It's a Chilean company with presence in Chile, Colombia, Peru, and Argentina. And so they hire me, they contact me. I have the first interviews online, and then I came to Argentina for the last interview. I was actually moving from New York to Paris with like a boyfriend, and they told me once I was in Paris, I had the last interview here, but then I left to Paris, and after few weeks they called me and they said the job is yours. And so that was and I moved back to Argentina. The job was to be the trend and fashion coordinator of the entire department store. And it was great because it's kind of exactly what I do right now. It's dealing a lot with the buyers. I was going to around the world and determine trends and going to trunk shows and trade shows and, Première Vision, Bread and Butter, different trade shows around the world, and determine trends and creating these trend reports and sharing this information with the buyers and the visual merchandisers. And so that was huge. That was a great school for me to work in such a company. So that's when I decided to move back.
And how long did you stay in Buenos Aires for?
So I arrived in Buenos Aires in November 2011. Mm-hmm. And I worked in Falabella until March 2014. And since March 2014 until now, I'm doing what I shared at the beginning. I'm on my own. And I am in Buenos Aires. I said like I don't know where to live, where I live, because I live in Buenos Aires. But for example, last year, I was most of the year in New York. I teach at FIT in New York. And then I was working and doing some consultancy. So last year I was mainly in New York. I also teach in Florence, in Polimoda, and in Paris, in International Fashion Academy, and in Chabón, in Dominican Republic. So I travel a lot teaching, and I give seminars. Last year I was in Chile giving a seminar in the Fashion Film Festival. So I travel a lot teaching and giving seminars, and also, of course, due to Fashion Week.
Do you think you'll continue with the trend forecasting, right? Because a lot of companies, there are agencies that specialize in trend forecasting. Is that correct?
Yes,
or
that's
how
correct.
Many are there?
Yes, that's correct. And I work with some of them. I don't work with them, but I do use their services, WGSN, Peclair, Fashion Snoops, the Doniger Group. Those are the trend stops. Those are the ones, the most important, and the ones I use. Yes, I check their data, and it's great. Some are more like fashion. Some are more like they have also interior design. And the one that I use the most is WGSN, and I also read Women Wear Daily on a daily basis. And I think that's a great resource for every designer or person that is interested in the fashion industry. It's a great place because it shows you the industry, not only what is in trend, not only what is cool and what is not cool. It shows you, the whole industry. They have like a stock tracker, so you can see whose stocks went up, whose stocks went down, and they have a lot of business information. So, which
is really important to keep track of when putting together these reports, I imagine.
Exactly. It's not, I always say that, it's not that because I'm an accountant, but I think whoever works in the fashion industry, and I always say this to my students, because, for example, in Argentina, most of the fashion school, they don't have a good business foundation. And I think if whoever is listening to us and is studying design or is interested in the design, in the fashion industry, is very useful to understand that the fashion industry is a huge industry. There's a lot of money, huge budgets involved. So you need to also be aware of the business trends. So there is a seminar that I give that is called How to Be Successful in This Omni-Channel World. So I talk a lot about what is to have an omni-channel strategy, the connection between the online world and the brick and mortars, and, the new customer, like who is, Gen X, Gen Y, the millennials. So all those things you need to know them. Like, you need to understand that that's going on, because consumers today, they're buying more experience than products. So you can have like a great store, but if the store is just about like a sales floor with a rack and the clothing hanging, there is a lot of stores like that. You have to give the consumer something else. You have to give him an experience. You have to treat him in a unique way. So blah, a lot of things that matters.
So for the next like season of Fashion Week, will you be in New York and in Paris doing this again next year? And how do you plan out professionally right now? How do you plan out like your career path as a consultant, right? Because it's contract to contract, year to year. Do you think that you'll end up going, more towards teaching, or are you going to continue along this path?
That's great. I think I'm going, well, first of all, in the next few weeks, I'm deciding where I'm going to live, because I'm leaving Argentina for sure. It's very far away, and it just doesn't make sense to me right now to be, even though some of my clients are here in South America, it doesn't make sense for me to live here. So I have to close some deals where maybe New York, Paris, or Madrid. Those are the three options that are like out there. And depending on that, if I do the entire season or not, definitely I'm doing Fashion Week. I don't know if I'm going to do all the cities, because it depends what I'm going to be doing. But most likely I'm leaning towards being more on the academic side. Like I do love teaching, and I'm looking more into maybe getting into more of a managerial position in the, director position within the academic world.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So that was great. Let me fire off some quick questions as we sort of wind down here, more towards about fashion, some of your inspirations. Yes. So from this past season's Fashion Weeks, New York, London, Milan, Paris, which designers did you enjoy this season from like New York to Paris? Whose collections?
Well, as I said, I didn't get to see yet many shows, because when we are in Fashion Week, we are outside on the street. So I didn't get to see a lot of shows. I'm sure, like, I have favorite brands, I have to tell you. I usually like a lot the Paris Fashion Week, like the designers that are showing in Paris, because but that's not. It depends. Like, for each client, I have to understand what the audience of that department store is. Like, if it's young, if it's an adult audience, if they're women, if they're men. So it really depends for the customers. But if I have to tell you from my personal style, I love Paris Fashion Week in general. I love Lanvin. I love Celine, Saint Laurent. Because I'm very as I said, tailor pieces. I don't like a lot of color. I'm usually dressed in black, and I'm and I love the French way of, styling things. It's kind of a very elegant, effortless way of looking chic. Like, they just look that they just put a simple jacket, but it's not just a simple jacket. It's the jacket, it's the pants, it's the shoes that they have to wear. So I don't know exactly of the past season, because I haven't watched many shows, but I'm sure I will like the French brands in general.
That's good. And then as far as inspiration goes, you talked about this real inner confidence, but were there outside mentors? I know you mentioned your dad was an architect. Was he? You said, yes. I know you passed that. Did you have any inspirations or mentors that instilled in you a work ethic, where you got a lot of this fire from, right? Because you're like very fiery. You have tons of energy. And when you talk about like you being 22 and having that energy, it's like you have the energy now of a 16, 18-year-old. I mean, you're like fully, always smiling. You're always full of energy. Every time I saw you in Paris, and we were there for 10 days. So who helped push you along or inspire you throughout like the last decade?
That's great. My mom inspires me a lot. She's a meditation. She teaches meditation, and she's a person that always believes in like whatever you want to do it, you can do it. Like, I grew up thinking like that. I grew up that the sky is the limit, you know. She always told me that, like, even when the doctors were telling to her, like, she's not going to walk again, she was like, oh, sure, yeah. And she was, you know, turning around and telling me, don't worry, you're walking again. I don't care what they're saying, you're walking again. So my mom was very important in my life in that sense. Then career-wise, I think I moved to New York so young. Like I was already a little bit like this, but I'm very always grateful of living in New York from when I was 24 until I was 31, because I think those years were very important in like how I was developing my personality and my career. And America, it is like that. I mean, the US is a country that puts you like, you can do whatever. And it's about like Argentina, for example, the difference is like, you get a great job in Argentina if you know the right person. Maybe that stands worldwide, but I think in the US it's a little less like that. I think in the US it's more about who are you? What did you study? Like, what can you do? What can you achieve? And I have a lot of examples. Like this story that I'm telling you about, they paid for my visa and I didn't even speak English. Like my French was better than my English. And he was like, I know that you can make it. And he made me manager of the store a few months after and he paid. So the US also like put me that sense of being like, I can do whatever. And then I had a mentor in my thesis in my master's that is Robin Lewis. He's like, he's very famous in New York. He used to work, former president, I think, of Women Wear Daily, and he's a consultant. He wrote a book that is called The End of Retail that is really interesting. And he was my mentor in my thesis, and he, like, I think he gave me great advices, and I always meet with him when I'm in New York. I go for a coffee or for a drink. Last time I was there in New York Fashion Week, and he also encouraged me to keep on searching. I know, I can give me advice.
And can you say his name? And can we give him a plug? Can you say his name and the book that he wrote?
Yes. It's called The End of Retail. I have it there, but I think it's called The End of Retail. Okay. Do you want me to look it up? Hold on.
No, we can. I'll get it from you after, but we'll add it into the blog post and the show notes because I think that'll be good.
No, it's called. I have it here. The New Rules of Retail.
The New Rules of Retail by Robert.
Yes. No, Robin Lewis. Maybe
Lewis.
My accent. Robin Lewis. Yes.
Robin Lewis. Well, this was great, August. Where can people, contact you if there's someone that wants to hire you, or they want to, follow you along your photos along Fashion Week? Do you have? I know you have an Instagram, yes. But are there any other social channels you want to plug right now?
Yes, definitely. Well, my Instagram is the place where I post the most, and it's I am Agus Cataneo. So it's I am, and then Agus Agus, and Cataneo is CATT as Tom ANEO. So I am Agus Cataneo. And I also have my blog that is aguscataneoblog.tumblr.com. And if people have any questions or comments or they want to email me, I'm free for that. It's agustinacataneo@gmail.com. Well, it was my pleasure. I'm very happy to share this with you. You were great, both of you. It was great meeting you in New York and then enjoying and walking around and working like crazy in Paris. I'm very happy that we met and very happy of being here sharing with you my experience. I don't know, my life.
August,
I hope it helps someone. All I want to say, if someone is hearing and is, struggling or is like thinking about what to do in life or what to do of their career, just they have to stop to keep on looking. You never have to settle. If you don't know what you want to do, or if you are not happy at your job, keep searching, keep looking. It's never late to start a new career. It's never late to turn, the page and say, okay, I want to do this. Me, for example, most people ask me like, did you lose your time? Do you think you lost your time because you studied 5 years business and you graduated as a CPA? Never. It's never a loss. Everything adds up. Like, I think a lot of clients, when I tell them that I'm a CPA, they feel more confident to hire me, even though they're going to hire me for a trend job. Being a CPA gives me like something different or something unique. Or even it's not for the client, even for me, it gave me like a whole business structure way of thinking. So it's never late to change your career. It's never late for anything. You always have to keep on searching. And I always tell this, when you do something with passion, there is no limit. Like I'm a workaholic, but I'm a happy workaholic. I don't remember the last time I took a vacation because I feel like the whole time, like working and vacation is the same. Like for me, for example, I love traveling. And so there was no way I could stay in Buenos Aires and just stay here. There is no way. I have to take a flight like every month. And so because I love traveling, I did of traveling my source of income. You know, there is no way I can do my job if I don't travel. So that's how you have to think. I always ask my students, what would you do if the money was no object? What would you do if you didn't need money? So if the question is, I would travel around, okay, so that's your passion. So do of that your source of income, you know?
I love that you've created like a big vision, a big dream, and you're achieving that. I think that's, I think, you know, outside of even some of the trend stuff, which was really interesting in this interview, just an outlook on life. I think people who are listening to this are going to be able to just be inspired. Because, I mean, just the story, before we cut out here and go, just a story about the mattress and showing up in New York City with $100. I mean, that's inspiring enough as it is. But this was great, August. I'm going to see you again in New York and Paris in the fall, or one of those fashion weeks. And we will be putting together a blog post with all these links for our readers so that they can contact you as well, and pushing people towards your Instagram and other social feeds. So thanks for coming on today, and being patient with us as we scheduled you. And we look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yes, thank you so much. It was my pleasure.
Okay, have a great one. Thanks again.
You too.
Thanks so much for listening to The Vault. We really appreciate your support and would love it even more if you left your positive feedback in the iTunes store. You can reach us on Instagram at The Vault Podcast and on Twitter at Vault Podcast. We'd love any recommendations, feedback, complaints, whatever you have to say. This podcast is produced by Lene Cook, hosted by yours truly, Avery D'Alessandro, and the music to the podcast brought to you by Ben Betherum.